Welcome to Chapter by Chapter. This series, I will be looking at a book, one chapter at a time, to see where it fell apart. I want to be clear. I'm not going to be punching down at some unknown author who just published their first book on Amazon. It helps no one, and it's mean. Instead, I will be focusing on those who can take the hit. Which brings us to the first book in the series, Lightlark by Alex Astor. I'm not going to go into what may or may not be true about Astor personally. Plenty of people have covered that, on Twitter, and BookTube, and on TikTok. I have neither the time nor the inclination to parse out the truth. This will be about the book itself, because authors who've behaved badly can still make fantastic books. In all honesty, I think she should go into advertising. She seems very good at it. Now, while I will be reading this for the first time myself and writing this as I go, I am clearly not picking this book blindly. I have listened to all 7 hours of Crimson Rogue's review, and Book Twitter has had fun with it as well. I know where the story is going in broad strokes. Time to get down to the details. So, Lightlark by Alex Astor, Chapter 1. Isla Crown often fell through puddles of stars and into faraway places, always without permission, and seemingly on the worst occasions. 2 things. First, this isn't a horrible opening line. It does what a good hook should do. It catches the attention and forces the reader to ask questions. How do stars make a puddle? How does one fall through them, with or without permission? How do they take one to faraway places? You have my attention. Second, Isla is Spanish for island. Our main character's name is Island Crown. As I said, I'm not going to this blind, and oomph, that name hurts. Don't get me wrong, naming your characters is hard. You want a name that stands out, but isn't too weird, that fits with the naming convention of the story without making the reader feel put off. A name that conveys an idea without really being on the nose. And boy, is this name on the nose. Even after 5 years, portaling still made her bones groan. She held her star stick tightly, her breath bottled in her chest like the rare perfumes on her vanity, the glass room spinning and fractured colors bleeding together, until gravity finally pinned her down like a loose thread of the universe. Well, that was flowery. And we have the infamous star stick. No idea what it looks like, so for now, I'm going to assume it looks like this. While we don't get an idea of what the star stick looks like, we do get the general idea of what it does. At first, it took her to run places in the realms, taking her hundreds of miles in seconds. With practice, she could return to certain places. How any of this actually works isn't said. She tucks the star stick away just in time for her guardians, Poppy and Tara, to come into the room. She has guardians, because like a good Disney princess, her parents are dead. Poppy is worried about Isla's hair, and Tara, for some reason, is armed to the teeth. It's described as her having so many knives and swords that clang, which sounds like it would be more hindrance than help in a fight. Poppy fusses over Isla's hair, commenting on how they only left her locked in her own room for an hour. She calls her little bird. Own room. Her room was not her own. It was an orb of glass, remnants of an ancient greenhouse. But the panes had been painted over. The windows had been sealed. All except one door had been removed. She was a little bird, just like Poppy and sometimes Tara called her. A bird in a cage. First, don't do this. It's never a good look for an author to talk down to their reader. A bird in a cage just smacks of Astor going, get it? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Bird in a cage? Get it? Not everyone is going to get your imagery, and that is okay. Pointing out your cleverness makes you just as much of an asshole in writing as it does in real life. Second, it's a weird image. Greenhouses are not spheres or orbs. I assume she means one of the circular or dome-shaped ones, but based on it being described as an orb, I'm thinking about the glass balls from the labyrinth with Isla playing the part of Sarah. Only the orb is painted. No specific color given, though the opening suggests many. So... And the doors removed? Again, I assume she means covered, because simply removing them would defeat the purpose of locking her in. Also, isn't that going to be kind of warm? Greenhouses are meant to be no more than 85 degrees in the summer, give or take, depending on what you're raising, and you control the temperature with fans and panes that open. But it says the windows had been sealed, and there's no mention of a fan. Though if this is an ancient greenhouse, electric fans would be unlikely. So Isla lives in a hot box with zero air circulation. And the only furnishing mentioned are her vanity and some rare perfumes. I'm forced to conclude she sleeps on the floor. Wonder where she keeps her clothes. And I don't want to know what this bathroom situation is here. Really hoping this world has moved past chamber pots. This is one of the moments where you need to take a step back from your story and ask some basic logical questions. Very pretty imagery can quickly be ruined by logic. I do get what she's going for here. The greenhouse design invokes a cage, its windows and doors locked to keep her trapped. There are other ways to invoke the same imagery. A normal room with bars on the window would have had the same effect and raised fewer questions. She could even get all the plant connections with ivy growing so thick she can't see out, or a tower above the trees so she looks down on a world but apart from it. But a greenhouse is vaguely shaped the same way as a bird cage, so that's enough, I guess. Further, if you're trying to trap someone, why a greenhouse? Especially if it is glass, as per the metaphorical orb or the opening paragraph. It wouldn't be hard to break out, or in. They're not really defensible in any real way, and with all the panes painted over, it will be both obvious and easy to sneak up on. This is truly a case of Aster having an image in her mind and not taking the time to think it through. It's sloppy. Moving on. Isla has a wall of swords in her room that she won by mastering each. Skipping past what could possibly be considered a wall in a circular room, I'm not an expert on swords, but like many fans of fantasy, I love them. I'm going to link to Skolagrim's channel. He's an excellent resource on all things sharp and pointy. The short version is, there are stabbing swords and there are slashing swords. You can't wield a cutlass the same way you do a claymore, nor can you wield a katana like you do a rapier. Swords are a product of their function and culture. Mastering one will take years, and Isla has a wall full of them. But she's like 20 at most. It's one thing to have your character be a prodigy with a weapon. It's super common in fantasy, in fact. But to be a master of multiple types of swords? There are dime store male power epic fantasies that don't go that far. But she has earned each of these swords, gifted from the castle's armory by Terra for each training achievement. Which brings me right back to, if there is a castle, one with an armory no less, why the fuck is she living in a greenhouse? The only hint we get is, Isla had been locked inside, not only for her own safety, but for everyone else's. Again, greenhouses are either good places for holding people or keeping them out without a lot of modifications beyond painting and door locks. Terra laments that Isla can't take the swords with her, and Poppy declares that this is a good thing because the other realms already have horrible views of them. And then we get this. Isla had not met many people, but the ones she had were simple to figure out. She just needed to uncover their motive. Everyone wanted something. Some things were easier to give. A smile for a charm teacher who had spent nearly 2 decades teaching her students manners. A compliment for a woman who prized beauty above all else. I would say it is quite clear that Isla has not met many people if she thinks they are simple. What motivates any given person to do anything is a twisted web of nature and nurture and need, with end results that are not always logical or practical. I'm sure this is meant to be taken as Isla being a special little sunflower with a gift for reading people. Don't get me wrong, it's perfectly fine to give your main character special traits. To a point. There isn't a chosen one story out there where the simple orphan isn't super special gifted at magic or swordplay or whatever the plot needs them to be. But all Isla did here was reduce Poppy to her job. We did not learn anything deeper about their relationship or any interests beyond manners and makeup. In those nearly 2 decades, did they not talk about anything else? Anything at all? No? Tara asks if Isla is ready. She is not. And she never would be. The Centennial was many things. A game, a chance at breaking the many curses that plagued the 6 realms. An opportunity to win unmatched power, a meeting of the 6 rulers. 100 days on an island cursed to only appear once every 100 years. And for Isla, almost certain death. She is, of course, talking about the titular island, Lightlark. And then we get some decent exposition about sneaking out and meeting an eldress, who told her stories of life on Lightlark and all the fantastic powers and people found there before the curse. Then she finds the woman dead at the tender age of 500 years old. She died too young. Her skin turned to bark and veins into vines. This is somehow Isla's fault. We also get our first mention of the realm here. Isla, Tara, and Poppy are wildlings. They have the power of nature. In this case, they mean plants and animals, because nature is a really wide net, even though that's the word used here. She finally answers Tara and places a crown upon her head. It was a simple gold band, adorned with golden buds, leaves, and a hissing snake. And I guess her crown is simple like people are simple. And of course our very special sunflower is the island ruler. As I said, Isla Crown is a name that is excessively on the nose. Why is the ruler trapped in a greenhouse by her teachers? Does she not have ruler things to be doing? She wants to give her guardians a goodbye in case it's the last time she ever sees them. But Tara glares her into submission. Chastised, Isla straightens her spine. She stood slowly, the heaviness of the crown far greater than its weight. I know what I must do, she said. Each ruler arrived with a plan. Tara and Poppy had hammered theirs into Isla since she was a child. I will follow your orders. Good, Tara said, because you are our only hope. Well, that's rather dramatic. In this chapter, which still has 2 more pages to go, we've already had 2 examples of her not following orders. She regularly leaves the greenhouse orb by way of the star stick, and she used to sneak out through a loose pane. So I can't say I feel much confidence that she will follow this plan. But that's pretty standard for YA. If they aren't testing boundaries and defying authority, what are we even doing here? They walk through the palace, and I have questions. I'm sure you're shocked. First, there is, in fact, a palace. It's not a ruin, or just a large house. It has endless chambers that for some reason Isla can't access, and halls and corridors. Again, why is she living in a greenhouse? Who is running the day-to-day business of the realm? She does not mention passing any other people, so Poppy and Tara, I guess. Are they the only 3 people left in the realm? Or has there been a coup? Part of the fun of having a princess character is that they have all the powers and trappings of royalty, but not yet the full responsibility. But Isla isn't a princess. Her parents are dead. She's effectively queen. Yet her whole life is spent being locked in a room, training in manners and swordplay. Even if we assume someone is taking care of those icky day-to-day details, manners and stabbing people is really a rather limited skill set. At bare minimum, she should be learning politics, negotiation skills, and inter-realm economics. That isn't to say the story needs a detailed description of the world's politics, outside of political fantasy anyway. But what am I supposed to take from empty palace halls? A queen with no active role in her realm, and must be kept locked in a greenhouse by her charms teacher. Again, it kind of looks like a coup took place, and Isla is a political prisoner. After waxing poetic about the empty castle and how sexy wildlings are, we finally get to the crux, the curses. 500 years before, each of the 6 realms, wildling, starling, moonling, skyling, sunling, and nightshade. Stop. Wildling, starling, moonling, skyling, sunling, and nightshade? Why the weird pattern break? Hell, why the weird pattern at all? These feel like placeholder names, or maybe races of My Little Pony. And then you have Nightshade. It breaks the pattern with the name of a deadly family of plants. So basically putting a flashing neon sign overhead saying, "Bad guys," with big flashing arrows. Once again, this is treating your readers like they are stupid. And as this is supposed to be a mystery and suspense, I am immediately inclined to believe a hint this big, this early, is nothing but a red herring. Finally, what's with the focus on the sky? 4 of the 6 have sky themes. Do the realms float? Were cursed, their strength turned into their personal poison. Each curse was uniquely wicked. Wildlings was twofold. They were cursed to kill anyone they fell in love with, and to live exclusively on human hearts. They turned into terrifyingly beautiful monsters with the wicked power to seduce with a single look. Well, that's going to make having kids kind of rough. If you love your child, does that mean you have to kill them? Okay, clearly we're talking about eros, or romantic and sexual love. Because if it was about any other kind, the wildlings would have gone extinct almost immediately. Though how they have survived exclusively on human hearts brings up questions. Do they still need 3 meals a day? Or does 1 heart last a month? A year? How many wildlings are there? Do they farm raise humans for their hearts? Does the size of the heart matter? Why haven't they gone to war with the other realms to take hearts? Are the other realms sending them prisoners to eat to hold off war? There are so many logistical questions here. You can't just drop something like that. The following paragraph provides no answers. And putting it out there now, that wicked power to seduce with a single look will never come up again. She walks out to a display of wildling power, growing flowers and making friends with animals. Granted, this is the much reduced version. Wildlings had been able to grow entire forests with half a thought, move mountains with a flick of their wrist. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and assume this is an exaggeration. Because an entire population, the much reduced number still including hundreds who came to see Isla off, that could upend entire ecosystems on a whim is fucking terrifying. She gives a little speech and is all nervous about it, and reiterating that she is their only hope. And then she steps through the portal, lamenting that she lied about following her guardian's plan. Because this is YA, and whatever that plan was, it was dead on arrival, and we all know it. End of Chapter 1. On the surface, I would say that this is pretty bog standard YA. Isla is royalty, her parents are dead, and she has a mission to save the world. But the devil is in the details, and a lot of those seem to have been left out. Why the greenhouse? The text suggests that there's something about her is dangerous to others, and others are a danger to her. So wouldn't a more secure and defensible location be better? Like, literally anything other than a greenhouse. How did she live in an airless hotbox anyway? I live in a part of Texas where summer days can be well over 100 degrees with 80% humidity. People die in that heat. And again, what is the plumbing situation in this world? Granted, since they only live on human hearts, maybe that isn't an issue. Which brings up the big issue here. How are wildlings surviving? How many hearts do they need a day to feed the population? Where do they get them? If there aren't enough hearts, is there a hierarchy? Now, fringe theory can get a little silly in fiction, though chasing every throwaway line down to its not necessarily logical conclusion can be fun. Something like, all the wildlings were proud of their bodies, can reduce the entire people to beauty obsession, much like Isla did to Poppy. But wildlings needing to survive on human hearts is not a throwaway line. It is a curse Isla needs to break. It is a very important part of the plot. However, unless they are growing them in a lab somewhere, it's going to take 9 months to produce one human heart. Another 18 years if it has to be an adult heart. That's before you get into the super unethical forced human breeding, possibly baby murder, and the ugly side of raising livestock. And what exactly is happening to all those non-heart bits that are the unavoidable byproduct of all this? The problem with the heart eating and the greenhouse are the same issue. They sound cool, cruel, terrible, but have no follow-through. Isla is the queen of a realm where everyone must consume human hearts to survive. And not only is her sole focus on breaking a curse that has been going on for 500 years, but there's not even a mention of how her people are being fed. This could easily be Isla's main motivation, the main conflict with the other realms. These hearts have to come from somewhere, and if you have to feed hundreds of people 3 hearts a day, you're going to have to do something wildly immoral just to get by. Likewise, the greenhouse just casually tossed out for a vague resemblance of a birdcage. But coupled with the idea that Isla is a danger and dangerous, it's a poor cage indeed. Both are imagery without thought. So, this being a suspense, what mysteries do we have going forward? 1. What is the curse on Lightlark? 2. What are the curses on the other realms? 3. How is the curse broken? 4. Why the greenhouse? No, I will not let that go. It's dumb. 5. How are the wildlings getting the hearts they need? 6. What makes Isla so dangerous she must be locked away? Perhaps these questions will be answered in the next chapter. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me on this new venture for my channel. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think.